All right, I think we are good to go. So thank you everyone for joining us on our 6th NGN Majlis. Today's topic is gonna be discussing about the internal and external email threats and how organizations can safeguard against them. Titled, "You've Got Mail, Will You Open It?" To see how we can, I would say, navigate through the threat landscape with one of the most popular email communication channels used by businesses and individuals alike, the email channel. Before we start, I would like to thank all the attendees for joining us today and thank also our rich panel of speakers. We have Mr. Harun with us, Head of Information Security at Payments International Enterprise. We have Mr. Divyo, he's the Senior Sales Engineer at NGN's partners ForcePoint, and Mr. Ayan, our Sales Engineer at our partners Power DMark. Today, we will be starting off with the agenda, but before that, I'd also like to introduce myself. I'm Ismail Gibran. I'm the Sales and Marketing Director at NGN International, and I will be your moderator for the day. So before we go through the agenda together, as we said, email communication is I would say a very volume intense channel. So just to have some statistics and idea, there are more than 290 billion emails communicated or exchanged in a day. And this gives, I would say, a very big opportunity for threat actors to breach data through multiple vectors of threats, such as phishing, such as dropping malware, etc. I'll leave the professionals to talk about that. And also, statistics-wise, 74% of organizations have been successfully, I would say, infiltrated or have faced a phishing attack in the past year. Also, 94% of malware is successfully delivered through email. So that is definitely the preferred medium by threat actors. However, it's not all bleak. Today, we are going to be talking about not just the threats, but also how we can protect our ecosystem, whether it is internal or external. I would say this is an important differentiation, and we will hope to answer it today. The topics for the day will be starting off with Mr. Harun. He is going to be defining what is phishing attacks, why is it basically an old technique, but is still a very I would say existing threat vector. He is also going to introduce us to the importance of email security and tell us a little bit more about his experience at Payment International Enterprise. Then we will move to our very own Ilya Leonov, our Head of Security Practice at NGN International. He is going to differentiate for us what is the difference between inbound email security and outbound email security, run us through some statistics from NGN Security Operations Center, and give us a summary of the tools and measures that will help us enhance the email security. Then we will have a more focused topic with Mr. DJ from ForcePoint. Again, we'll have a quick summary of the statistics, the types of attacks, spam emails, scam emails, etc., and the prevention and best practices to follow from his professional experience with ForcePoint. And last but not least, we will have a walkthrough by Mr. Ayan on the outbound email security, or what is more known as the DMARC protocol, the domain-based message authentication, reporting, and conformance, and why it is important for us to tackle both the internal environment and our external email environment. And lastly, we will have a quick Q&A where you'll definitely have the opportunity to ask questions. But I always like to mention that we don't have to wait for the Q&A. We would love to have a more interactive session, dialogue with our speakers today. So if you have anything that you'd like to pinpoint or discuss during the event, please feel free to use the chat box. We are more than happy to tackle it together and hear from everyone equally in the audience and from our presenters. So I will be handing it over to you, Mr. Harun. The floor is yours.
Hi, good morning, everyone. It's been a year or so that I've been speaking publicly, so it's definitely an exciting time for me. I hope everyone is doing fine. Let me just put up my presentation. Let me know if everyone can see that. Is it visible? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So I'm Mohammad Haroon. I'm currently heading the information security practices at Payment International Enterprise. It's uh, one of the largest fintech company based out of Bahrain. I've been practicing security since around 15 to 20 years of time. Just to take you on to a journey from where it all started and why I titled this presentation as an ancient technique. We all know phishing. Every one of us who's into technology, who looks at the news, we know that phishing is an attack which is actually used to gather information, credit card information, credentials, and stuff like that. I have a very brief agenda. So number one is from 2007 and 2021. I'll tell you the significance of 2007 in that particular slide. We look at some phishing and its types, definitely. Looking forward to the defense they usually tells you. So we all have this security awareness session. We've been into security awareness seminars, and they always talk about some defenses against it. What they don't know is there is something or there is an attack that they either don't know themselves or they don't tell you. We look into it as well. Not the least that what makes us to eat the bait or get targeted and successfully get compromised on the phishing attack. What used to be the cure? What used to be the controls that were there to protect the emails and protection against the phishing attacks? We are entered into a new era. We are looking at the artificial intelligence was introduced into the environments. We know there are other technologies that are in place currently, and finally the conclusion. That's how the presentation will go. 2007, I was completing my post graduation. It was my young times pictures that you can see. I was speaking at a conference in Lahore in 2007, and the topic was the same, the phishing. And I was speaking about the new dimension in phishing, which is browser-based attacks and how to leverage on that to drop down malwares and force people to give out their credentials. Unfortunately, it's 2021, and I'm speaking still the same topic. The only difference that happens from 2007 to 2021 is the attacks actually get more lethal, more sophisticated. The things that we used to do at that time now have names as well. At that time, it was just a phishing attack, but now there are a lot of types that are there. So what is phishing? Phishing basically being an output of something we call spam, or we know the spam. So spam is an harmless, unwanted calls we receive or messages that we receive, which basically used to introduce the products that we don't want, the services that then we don't ask for. That is what spam is. What is the communication or the relationship between spam and phishing is? Spam is a delivery mechanism. Phishing is the technique to gather your user information, login credentials, financial details, and other stuff. So spam is not phishing. Phishing is not spam. Spam is a payload mechanism. Phishing is the technique to use that payload to gather the information or getting the credentials. Okay, so there is not everything about phishing. The phishing that we see in the wild is, one fake email that has been generated. Over the period of time, security practitioners will come back with a lot of different names, a lot of different attacks, and they start naming them. So it's not always about catching a fish with a hook. Why not to attack and get a whale instead? Get a bigger fish, and your work will be done. Then we'll see what is this cloning phishing, domain spoofing, what is something called evil twin, smishing, spearfishing, wishing. There are a lot of attacks up there. And then I'll show you an attack which is currently in Starix. It's a known attack actually, which being secured by some of the browsers, but we'll play around some of your browser as well later in the day. So let's go one by one. So what is whaling? In any organization, the biggest whale is the chairman, president, CEO, any of the business owner that actually carries the information, when targeting or specific targeting those individuals, we call it whaling. So we are not targeting the engineers, we are not targeting the financial people, we are not targeting the HR people. Why not to directly target the CEOs? So when we target the CEOs, we call it whaling. I will not go in a lot of details regarding these topics. We all have Google, we all have YouTubes. I will prefer that you know this topic, and if you want to know more about how this attack has been done, what are the other basics of it, you should always go to the Google and YouTube and such like that. Next step is cloning. So there is something called Gmail, and somebody just created something similarly looking to a Gmail website. That is what we call the clone website. So they look same, but their URL will be different, and obviously their purpose will be different. The Gmail that we use is basically to go to our email boxes. That particular page would be just a display page. You put your credentials in, and they will just show you either an error page, or they will redirect to the actual Gmail account of yours. That's what it is basically. So that is what we call cloning, a similar looking web application or similar looking website page. Domain spoofing, we always get these emails which have been sent by either Microsoft and Google and Facebook. Sometimes we get the error that the sender is not known to us. This is what we call domain spoofing. So sending out an email on behalf of, say, NGN International, Harun.com, Microsoft.com, Google. Online, there are fake email generators or fake email senders are available. One of the examples is on the left side. So you can actually select from which account you want to send. So I can send an email account from timcook@apple.com, say, for example. So I can generate any email that I want, and I can send any content that I want in those particular emails. So if we don't have a protection against the identification of the fake emails or the address of the fake email, it will look legit and it will sound legit as well.
Mr. Harun, you bring me up, if you don't mind me asking here.
Yeah, please.
This is I would say a very common question when it comes to spoofing.
Yep.
So internally, definitely, everyone is invested in protecting through email filters, etc. But when it comes to your own email domain as an organization, the protection of, as you said, the spoofing attacks.
Yeah.
This is something that is debatable sometimes, but I would love to hear from you. Like, is it the responsibility of the organization to protect its domain, or is it the due diligence of the recipient when it comes to email spoofing, or what is your opinion on this, or is it a combination of both? So
it's basically a combination of both. So see, why would I let anyone else to use my own name? That's number one question, right? So we all have this, statements underneath an email stating that this email is generated from us, not generated from us. That's why we all created the email signatures as well, right? So make sure that the integrity of my email is there, that it is coming from who is. That's number one, right? So the responsibility of making sure that nobody spoofs against my email is also a brand protection thing. Giving you an example, if my URL got famous of being used for a lot of spoofing or spamming attacks, right? So I will lose the brand value itself. That we do not have catered to those particular attacks whereby the people are sending out mailboxes on my behalf. So say, for example, if any litigation happens, they will not go to the Microsoft because they don't know that it's generated from the Microsoft. Sorry, they will go to the Microsoft because the email that they have got is from the Microsoft itself. Not everyone else in the litigation manners will look into the SMTP records or email addresses and stuff like that, unless until it has been proven that the sender is not from the Microsoft itself. So it's more of the brand protection, brand value. So it's a combined responsibility of both, actually.
That's great. Thank you for that. I think it's something very important to differentiate. When it comes to security, responsibility is also very important.
100%.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we all use this free Wi-Fi. Tell me if we don't. Everything free, we love that. We love to connect to the places. I would love to use the free Wi-Fi. I used to crack into Wi-Fi to use them anyways. So that's why we always been taught into the awareness sessions, do not connect to the Wi-Fi that has been not known to you. Do not connect your office laptops to the Wi-Fi that you don't know. This is something we call evil twin, basically. So if I connect to a legitimate internet service provider or a Wi-Fi, the DNS records will be saved. The Google is Google. In case of the evil twin attack, we have actually created one fake Wi-Fi, AP, and then from there, connectivity, we can actually redirect the DNS to a fake page. So you ask for a Yahoo, I'll change the DNS of Yahoo, and I will take to the fake Yahoo. In this case, it says Yahoo. So you will be presented by a page which is not legitimate, and then this particular attack will use your credentials and your information, because from your perspective, you are connected to a legitimate website. But the DNS redirect on that evil twin Wi-Fi will actually take to your fake page. So that's what basically evil twin is. An evil twin doesn't mean the domain cloning, which I showed you earlier. It's basically mean to use a similar looking Wi-Fi name and then redirecting the traffic to the fake websites. That's what it is. The question is specifically to the Bahraini users and the Bahraini audience. Tell me who actually received such email messages, such SMSs. Ismail, Ilya?
I definitely have received it.
Actually, this is one of my favorite SMS. I have tons of that.
Okay. Yeah, so every one of us actually received these SMSs. The right one in 24th August, I have received it. Have a look at the title of the sender. So benefit pay, right? So everyone in Bahrain. So I think the biggest attack that are currently happening in Bahrain are smishing type of attacks. So SMS, here again, Ismail, you talked about the responsibility. I think it's an inter-industry, the communication or inter-industry cooperation will be required. So these attacks are not coming, from an IT company. These attacks are basically coming by an SMS, which is provided by the telecom industry. So I think over here it's an and attacking the financial information, right? So I think it's an inter-industry cooperation is very much required over here. So it's not about banks only, it's not about users only, it's about the telecom industry as well. I think it's a global issue, the SMSs, and the fake call is a global issue. I think it has to be catered on that level. So these are attacks. Mainly when you click over there, it takes to the fake page. They ask you for the information, and ultimately, we know someone who actually lost money directly. I've been received multiple calls from Bahrain that people have lost their money, or they have to give some, gift cards, for example, Apple cards and Xbox cards and PlayStation cards.
Yeah, those are popular.
That's a popular, yeah. So
yes,
this is very local to us right now. This attack is very local to us. So it's not about from the concept perspective, but this attack is very local to us, and we need to actually look into it.
Yeah, I have a short comment, Mr. Harun, if you if you come back to the previous slide. In terms of our practical expertise, if you compare these two links between the bit.ly links, one is the Q benefit pay, another one is just digits and letters. So from the detection perspective, I would say the right link is harder to detect, because if you are configure your brand protection system or you put some keywords, so it's easier to detect if there is some let's say exact name of the client into this link. But this one on the right is real headache for the let's say the people who are detecting such attacks.
Yeah, so exactly. That's why the sender is known to us. So that's the issue. The sender has to be known to us. We need to know which are the sender. That's why I said it's an inter-industry cooperation. There's something in SMS protocol itself which actually can tell us what is the source of this particular information. So at least we can start blocking. There should be like domain ownership. I think this is very much required on top of it globally. That's not a on the security risk. It's more than a security risk now. People have been targeted over there. I totally agree with that. Benefit pay written in an English, the unaware user will definitely fall to it. There's a high chance of falling to this particular attack, definitely.
Cool.
Spearfishing is, I should say, the aware phishing attack. You know the person, so if I want to target Ilya in this case, so I will search everything about Ilya. What he do, what are his customers, how he writes the email, what his email signatures are, communicate with him, what is his current email, what is his phone number. So I will get all the information regarding this particular person, like say in this example, Ilya. And then I will specifically created an email, specifically created the content which he is interested in. So NGN is a service provider, and I'm sure that you will get dozens of emails every week who are looking for some services from you. So the best attack vector I can come back with you is to ask for an NDA or accept my NDA or give me some services. So knowing you, being the service provider, I can bring up a scenario whereby I know that Ilya will be interested into and clicking that. So it's not always about the security aware people, it's about the context as well. So we need to be security aware and we need to be context aware as well in that case to be protected from this particular type of attack.
This is actually very interesting, Mr. Harun, that you bring it up. Exactly. So the attacks are actually quite sophisticated now. So they know it's not random anymore. They study the organization. They study. I believe Ilya will also touch a little bit more on that. They know the person that they are targeting. It's very I would say sophisticated. On the other hand, what I find interesting is that you will find these very obvious attacks and phishing emails. That would say they have a lot of spelling mistakes. They are very sloppy. So you have the very sophisticated, and on the other end you have, I would say,
clumsy.
The clumsy ones.
Yes.
But I've read an article a while back, and it says that actually this is very intentional. Why? Because if they assume that if you fall for it, you are an easy prey. So we want to make it as clumsy, as error-ridden as possible, so that we catch the easiest targets. So it's quite interesting.
Okay. How many have you received the calls, the fake calls? From call center people, Microsoft. We all get these, calls in our phone, right? So these are what we call phishing. So people have actually calls you.
Sorry, Mr. Harun. Once I received a call from Central Bank of Bahrain from Pakistan number.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what we call phishing. If he could be that much smarter, he would have used the Bahraini number. Anyways. So again, this phishing attack, as I said, is an inter-industry issue. It's not only about ISPs. It's not only about the financial sector organizations. It's about a collective thing. How those calls have been routed to us, we don't know. Me being a security guy, we are looking at the financial information. People expect security from financial industry. But such cases like smishing and phishing, we have very limited controls over it. And in some cases, zero control over it, because how these messages have been routed, how these messages or e-calls or messages have been routed through the telecom technology, we have no clue about it. And even if we bring any control over it, we are not the source. So we don't know what the source of this particular message is, but not what the source of the attack is. Until we know the source, we basically cannot come back and do any control over it. So in those particular attacks, we require the support of the telecom industry and ISPs to actually have some control over it, have those registered titles against those SMSs at least, that any other source cannot send us or use those particular signatures to send the messages out. It's again an inter-industry issue. It's not only about financial sector. We do, by the way, I expect a lot of security from my bank anyways. So last but not the least, water holing attack. This is it's a very peculiar attack actually. So what's the newspaper that you usually read, Ismail?
Me, I'm still financial, so mostly it's Reuters and Zawiya and those kinds of news.
Right.
But as a physical newspaper, I don't read a physical newspaper anymore.
Exactly. So a lot of us, maybe 90% of us, we only see the news online, either on social media accounts or through these particular news media websites. So now you took the name of Reuters. So say example, an attacker can actually inject a JavaScript in Reuters website, which can actually start downloading the malware. This is what we call waterfalling attack. So we'll, as an attacker, we'll actually look at the landscape and how many people are using that particular website. So for example, locally, if we talked about Bahrain, so say my telecom industry websites, my GDN and Biz Bahrain, Zavia, all those locally available newspaper websites. So if I injected some JavaScript into those websites, I'll have more people getting infected. Then I'll be sending spam emails or sending out SMSs one by one. So basically capturing one place, this is what we call waterfalling attack. We hack one particular website, page, or social media place, and then start either redirecting people to the phishing pages or downloading the ransomware or other malwares that are out there. So this is what we call the waterfalling attack. They put it as a part of the phishing, but it's mainly because the redirection is used by the websites itself that we categorize it into the phishing attacks itself. Okay, so this is what they told us in the awareness session. So identification of phishing email is 1, 2, 3. So look at the who sent it, what's the content, is there any fake link over there, is the grammatically it is correct. This is what they usually tell us to identify a fake email. On the contrary, what they allow us or to tell us but how to identify a fake URL. Okay, so URL should not be look like that. It should be an HTTPS. So this HTTPS and log thing, I find it in 90% or 95% of the phishing or security awareness sessions. We are telling our users, look at this log sign. If the log sign is there, then it means it's the actual website. That's what they usually tell us. That's the defense they usually tell us against the phishing or spam emails, right? Ilya?
My favorite emails is from Microsoft, actually, when they're sending me PDF files. So I really enjoy this. I assume it will never disappear, so regardless of how fake it look like, but it's still there, We're still receiving tons of such emails from Office 365 that, your account are going to be blocked, or please update something, here is the file. So it's still there.
It will never disappear. Yeah,
absolutely.
So let's talk about what they don't tell you. Either they don't know it or they don't tell you. So let's talk about something they don't tell you. Is this attack? It's HTTPS, phishing, PIN code, internationalized domain names, homograph. This is all English letters. So basically what it means this is more towards the IT technical people. They understand it better than in that case. Sorry for the other audience. We know we use ASCII characters. My A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3 on my keyboard are all ASCII characters. Have we ever looked at the Unicode or other character sets that are available in our system? We don't even know them. We don't even know the types of them because we don't use them. We are good enough for our type, our keyboard, right? This is where the actual trick happened. This is the more sophisticated attack, which actually can bypass. But they tell us, look at the HTTPS. They tell us, look at the address bar. This is all actually get playful. So there are some character sets which can be used to create some puny code. If you look at my on the screen on the left side, something called puny code. Okay. These puny code actually correspondent to some other character sets. When you put those particular puny codes into your browser window, you will actually see the actual URL. You won't see the fake email, and it will be an HTTPS website. It will have an apple.com. Let me share some text with you. Give me a second. It will be very interesting. Do people have Firefox browser? It's mainly for the Firefox browser, because this particular thing is already fixed into the Chrome browser. So it will be a good game. I want every one of you who has the Firefox browser. I'm just sending out a link in the chat window.
Ilya is uninstalling it.
Okay, everyone, can you just copy this or open this in copy link address and put it into the Firefox and open this page? And Ismail or Ilya, tell me what you see on the address bar.
I am not using Firefox.
Okay. Which other browser you have? Try with every browser then.
Okay.
The people who have Firefox, then tell me on the Firefox.
Okay. You're gonna make me open Microsoft Edge.
Yeah.
I haven't done so. I haven't done so in a while. So Google Chrome tells me that it is not safe.
Exactly. So in Chrome browser, they have actually protected. The people in Firefox, if you have the Firefox, can you open this link? It's just a POC. It's a proof of concept. It's not a virus, I can tell you.
I opened it in Safari, but in the address line, it's still the link, which is this puny code. So it's not.
You don't have Firefox?
No.
Okay. Firefox will say it's an apple.com website, which I've actually posted onto the screenshot. Let me share my screen and let's teach you people how to actually do that. Let's do that. Okay.
No, Edge did not allow me either.
Yeah, so they are fixed over there. Let me share my screen. Give me a second.
So we have people asking, okay, you're giving us all these threats, but how do we stay safe? So just to confirm, we're gonna cover protection in the second half.
Yes, true that. True that.
So we need to know what the enemy is, and then we will tackle how to safeguard against it.
Yep. So we got a response. This is apple.com. Somebody has pasted it. So
yeah. It's converted for me as well. Apple.com.
On Firefox. Great. Okay. So the only person, I find this one very interesting. So the only person which won't fall to a phishing attack is this guy. So the person who won't even open the emails is the only one who will get protected from all these phishing attacks and puny code attacks. So this guy will be the only one who will be protected. Apart from that, including myself, today or tomorrow we'll be able to fall. It's just a matter of time. I'll be quick now. It's 2 minutes for me. So what is the damage? The damage is around $1.8 billion in last year's FBI's report actually. And what the cost values is loss of hours, incident response, damage the reputation, loss of revenue, fines. We have a lot of impact when this happened to the organizations then. Why we take the bait? Why we click these particular links? There are 4 reasons that I come back with. The greed, we all wanted the free money. I love the free money. The fear of getting caught. Your password will be expired. Your CPR number is expired. We are all fearful for that. The curiosity, I just need to know what is there. They asked me to click it, but why not to click and check what is there? And then finally, the human error. We all are bound to make mistakes. We all bound to make the errors, and this is what it is. This is what we can fall for. A very short video, regarding the similar topic. Let me clear that for you guys.
This is exactly what happens.
So that's usually the case. Sometimes it's the curiosity which makes us fall for the phishing attacks. So the classical cure is the security awareness training, online trainings, YouTube awareness videos. That's what the classical cures are. Anti-spam filtering solution back in the days. I think we'll discuss further controls in coming presentations, and the presenter will tell you more about solutions. And this one particular thing called domain keys, I know around 2006, back in Pakistan, I was working for a software company. And Yahoo actually introduced this to basically make sure the integrity of the message and the domain. I think the DMARC idea is actually coming from that depreciated email authentication system that Yahoo designed back in the days. The DMARC control is the most newest of such control. I'm not saying this the similar one, but the same control, similar control. So what are the cures of the new era? We have security awareness training platform. So from a person, it will be shifted to a system. We have phishing simulation solutions, which actually train our users on multiple type of phishing emails, send to them, look at their responses and make sure that they know what sort of phishing attempts can be done, and they will be able to understand and detect them. SMIME certificates to validate the email addresses are valid and they are encrypted. Finally, the DMARC controls that are there to make sure that the spoofed addresses will not be used and will be reported to you, and you will take the necessary actions against them. So the conclusion, what I can see is 4 major controls we all require to ensure that we are protected from the phishing emails or phishing attacks or spam attacks. Number 1, to block or filter our incoming and in this case outgoing messages as well. Protect accounts with effective authentication and authorization mechanism. Make sure that you have your multi-factor authentication enabled on your emails. Implement solutions to protect your domain against spoofing attacks, the one that I showed you earlier. Help user identify and report suspected phishing emails. One of the good ideas is to have some solution for phishing simulation, which I've mentioned earlier as well. That's pretty much it from me, my end there. Any questions that you have, please put it on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harun. Your slides are popular, actually. There's a request to share them.
I'll be happy to share them. I think you have the source. I'll be very happy to share them.
Thank you so much. Quite frankly, you have covered, I would say, inclusively the topic of phishing, and I think awareness. And this is I would say, the importance of awareness. Is knowing the threat is half of the battle, because once you know what's the threat, we know how to protect against it. And this is where the idea of NGN Majlis came to life. Is for us to be an active part of the community as a managed security service provider, to hear from the local expertise such as yourself. So thank you for joining us. And to also give the audience a chance to interact and have these open discussions and conversations. Now, since we've just now have a very good understanding of what phishing is, I would love to hear from the audience with this quick question. Have you faced a phishing attack personally or professionally in the last 30 days? So we're not talking about ever, we're just talking about the last 30 days. We want to have I would say, a good idea of what's the experience from the audience side. I can see 3 no's. I can't believe it. We're having this webinar and I just got like 3 or 4 phishing emails.
I believe this is the people who are not reading emails, no?
You've mentioned something, Mr. Harun, also, is that why do we get phished? It's also sometimes that you feel, I would say, a bit hesitant or shy to tell your information security team about your experience or about what happened. But information security is not about blame. It's about reaction, it's about prevention, it's about detection. So never, I would say, would love to communicate this clearly. Never feel, I would say, hesitant or shy to talk to your information security team, to your consultants, or to even to your friends who are part of the field. Share your experiences. They will help you, I would say, minimize the damage, minimize the losses, not just financially, but also in terms of brand, personal data, privacy, anything of that sort. Speak up and it's not about, I would say, pointing a finger at the end of the day.
Security professionals, or in general, the security practitioners are the friends next door. We know this technology. We suffer through it as well. We know the details, and if you will contact any of the phishing, the security practitioners, it's like going to a doctor.
Yeah.
Doctor is your friend. But if you hide your symptoms, if you hide your issues from the doctor, he will not be able to successfully help you out. So we are those consultants, we are those doctors, we are those friends that you can speak up, come to us, and we'll tell you from technically. And blame game is not the case. We are not the blaming here. It's more of how to basically improve every day, one by one, step by step.
Yeah, just to add here, Mr. Harun, that we are doctors not for the exact employee, but for the entire organization. So that's why we are, as the security experts, we are appreciated when the users are highlight these issues and problems. So Ismail is a perfect in that case. So he's bugging us every day with the phishing emails. So thank you for that, Ismail.
My pleasure, Ilya. My pleasure. So now we'll move into your topic, Ilya. We'd love to hear from you as our head of security practice at NGN, and since we work with a rich pool of clients, and you have a lot of visibility, I would say, through our 24/7 operations. Please do help us understand what's the difference between inbound email security, outbound email security. What are your insights in Bahrain and the region? And the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Ismail. Once again, thank you, Mr. Harun, for the interesting presentation. So my focus will be on the, let's say, some comparison between the global trends and statistic and what we observing during, let's say, the month of August from our security operations center. So I will give you some comparison, and also I have a lot of examples from the different techniques and the phishing emails. So I believe it will be interesting for everyone. And if you have any questions, just drop them into the chat box. Would love to discuss it in details. So, okay. In general, if let's say we talk about email threats in the global market, so how we can divide it. Ismail, can I ask you to move to the next slide, please? And can you give me the control, if you don't mind?
Sure.
So, yeah, speaking about the trends, again, in the current months, we can divide it by 3 categories. As you can see, it's a different kind of payloads or different kind of malware related to the email traffic. Also, we have credential theft, or credential harvesting. It's also like everything which is related to the phishing and what Mr. Harun told us previously. But also we see growth into the business email compromission or SEO fraud. So again, when someone is mimic some of the C-level or chairman and trying to, let's say, use the social engineering, to put some fake invoices or ask to transfer the money to some weird accounts and so on. So speaking about the payloads, so this is the statistics from the global, I would say, reports. We studied multiple reports from different vendors, from the agencies. So we see that all of these malware payloads, it's more related to some keyloggers or some viruses or malware related to the file attachments. For example, as you can see here, this nanocore is the payload which is injected into the PDF file, and if you click it, it's redirect you to some service, and it will, let's say, run on the background this RAT process. If we compare it with Bahrain, so actually we see some similar patterns, especially for this agent Tesla, which is really popular malware as a service, and it's widely presented in Bahrain. Especially, I'm saying that during August. So this is our let's say time frame for the study. So maybe in September or October the picture will change, but in general it is always the same. So as we see that the snake keylogger, as I said, different kind of bots, which is main aim for such malware is to steal the credentials from the different wide range of FTPs, browsers, VPN, and so on. So we see some dependencies, some similar patterns in Bahrain as well.
So Ilya,
yeah,
only 4% of emails or spam emails contain malware.
It's like if we're speaking about all the traffic during the year, yes. But if we will talk about exact quantities, you will be shocked how many emails have malware, how many of them are phishing. So usually it depends on the organization actually. Sometimes we see that in some organizations which are not so accurate with the email protection inbound and outbound, we can see that 20% of the entire mail traffic is or phishing or spam or some mass mail. So actually it's required for the organization to be more accurate in that terms.
That's interesting, because I've recently read somewhere that 98% of malware payloads are delivered through email. So that's very effective, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. So, but again, we have different techniques, different types of these payloads, and different ways how to deliver them. So, if we go to the let's say the examples. For example, here on the left side, you see that there is a purchase order, and this is actually one of the way how you can deliver this payload. So you see that there is a Excel file, but it's not even the file. So it's just a picture. So as you can see here, this is the dark theme of the client. So this is why it is looks pretty weird. But if it will be light theme of Outlook, it will look like an Excel attachment. But once you click it, so as you can see, there is a link. So you just click on this image, it will redirect you to the website with the malware, which is be downloaded on your PC.
And Ilya, just to mention here, these are not from the internet. So look at the date of the last email here on the left. So this is something that the SOC team has actually flagged and marked, right?
Yeah, for me it was the easiest, I would say, content preparation, because I took all the examples from the past, I would say, maybe month, because we have a lot of detected phishing and different kind of examples. But definitely all of these emails are either quarantined or blocked, and they didn't reach the recipient.
Yeah.
So on the right side, as I told previously, this is my favorite example. Again, email from support from Microsoft Office that dear, access to your email will be expired again. Please give us your credentials. And again, if you click on the link, it will redirect you to some website for the credential harvest. So as you can see, there is multiple ways how you can harvest credentials, how you can deliver the payload through the malicious links, through the infected attachments. So that's why, yeah, it's good to be vigilant and read carefully all the emails that you have. Moving forward to the business email compromitation. So I will let colleagues to talk about it more, I would say, in the details, but this is very nice example that we faced again pretty recently. It was in April. As you can see on the left side, that there is an email from the CEO to the one, let's say, of the employee who is in charge of the, I would say, some office administration. So as you can see, this is looks like quite legit email. So are you busy? How are you? So I want you to help me with something. So if you will get such kind of email, you will not suspect anything, right? Because the sender is well known. Email address is not something weird. It's the exact email address. So it is email for you. Okay, subject is fine. But once the victim is replying to this email, yes, how can I help you? Then we will get the response from the threat actors, which is on the right side. So saying that I'm on the Zoom meeting now, so can you buy some iTunes gift cards to me? Which is pretty awkward. But again, we have Carrefour, Virgin Shops, which is related to Bahrain, as we can see. But again, so everything, like as you said, Ismail, you like to say that very good idea, but very poor execution. So as you can see on the bottom, I will need to 6,000. This is dirhams, I believe.
Emirati dirhams, yeah.
Yeah, so Emirati dirhams, Bitcoin, iTunes gift cards. So this is that triggered actually as the pretty awkward way to, let's say, to request something. And this this example is pretty common. And here I put like the DAC type. Then when the CEO or CFO trying to reach some of the employees and with some urgent request or assistant or whatever, and do some, let's say, transactions to the, let's say, threat actors accounts. So yeah, moving forward to the how we can mitigate, how we can protect ourselves against such attacks. I'm sure that Mr. Harun already mentioned most of these points, and I'm sure that other colleagues will give us more visibility on the way how to protect. But definitely it's the pretty well-known activities such as email security gateway, such as locking down the inbound email traffic and let's say quarantine or flag any files with the JavaScript or with the macros into the let's say Excel file or any other Microsoft documents. So definitely you need to make sure that all the software are fully patched on your employees' machines. So, and definitely the education, so I put it as the last point, but it's very important because as we discussed previously, so if you put this sense to your employees that there is no harm to, let's say, double check, to call the person, for example, if you receive some suspicious email and you are not sure, so just double check with the person, call him via cell phone and make sure that the request is legit. So yeah, that's it from my side. If someone from the, let's say, audience will love to know more about the payloads, about the statistics that we prepared, so please reach us. We would love to share and discuss it in details.
Thank you, Ilya. Now I think we're very much ready to hear from Divjot. Divjot, it seems very scary out there. So we got you here to tell us how can we protect. When I think of, I would say, email threats, when I think of spam, when I think of malware, I think of you guys at ForcePoint. So thank you for keeping us safe. Thank you for your data protection. Thank you for your email protection. But we're very eager to know more. Before we head into it, also, we'd like to, I would say, ask the audience also if their organizations utilizes any anti-spam solutions. Before we get to dive into your topic, we'd love to also know a little bit more about yourself, Divjot.
Sure. So, hello everyone. My name is Divyo Arora. You can call me DJ, which is easy to pronounce and everyone knows in this region. So, I'm into, you can say, Middle East for more than 15 years now. I started my career with Qatar, then I moved to UAE. I joined ForcePoint in 2018. Before joining ForcePoint, I was with Help AG, which is cybersecurity integrators. And also I'm pursuing my, you can say, master's and PhD degree in artificial intelligence and machine learning. And I'm creating a project around, detecting spam using machine learning algorithms, which is, next generation of detecting the spams. So today,
you're definitely the right person to introduce us to the topic then.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not going to talk about any product or any solution which, going to help most of the people. It's people, basically, it's people themselves going to help themselves, So it's not tool or you provide thousands of tools. Still, there are victims of exploitation attempts. So it's all about educating your employees and, using the hygiene and just to be aware before clicking anything. So this is what I'm going to talk about in today's
Great. So the floor is yours. Let me get you ready here, DJ.
Great. Perfect. So quickly about ForcePoint. ForcePoint is a company created in 2016. We believe in human-centric approach. So how people or how your employees are interacting with data and day-to-day activity, we are very much focused on those kind of events. And when we say there is a deviation, okay, when there is a deviation from their normal behavior to some malicious intent, we mark them. We show you, like, this is the employee you have to focus on. We believe in self-education or some kind of campaign we run in our solutions to understand who all are the malicious user. By knowing it's a spam email, still they want to click it. That means they are the harm to the organization. Maybe by intention, or maybe those are the users we need to educate, right? Because we give you a warning in a bold letters, this is a spam email you receive. Do you really want to read it? And still you're clicking yes, this is a user I want to, definitely I want to treat or educate him, right? Today, what I'm going to discuss, quickly, types of email attacks, how many kind of different email attacks are there with some good examples. How emails are going to affect the organization, what hackers is all about. I mean, they are not about harming you, they are about harming the organization, right? So you are the front face of the organization. So they're not personally attacking you. Basically, their motive is to harm your organization by getting the data out of it. So there is no silver bullet to protect any kind of attack. So it's a chain. So once you are a victim of, say, phishing attack or something, they're not behind your personal data, they're behind the corporate data. So you have a responsibility to protect your corporate data, right? So if you're storing something, on your machine, and make sure that, you're not taking a confidential information along with you on the PC. Make sure your cloud is secure when you're interacting with the cloud. Make sure whatever work you have done will be having a right privilege access, who can access, who can read those documents, encrypted. All these are combined efforts of securing the data, because end of the day, they want that data. And once they have that data out, then they can start, using that data to harm your organization by maybe they have a contact details of your, for example, if it's a Medicare industry, if they have everything from Medicare, their patient details, then it will harm the Medicare industry as a reputation, because they've been affected as a data exploitation attempt company. Now your letters are shining everywhere, like this Medicare industry is, being into data exploitation organization. So do you really want to trust this organization? Why not shift to another organization? So these kind of action they are behind. So how they are doing this? When you see the majority of attacks, as my team is mentioning here, majority of attacks are through email attachments. So email attachments is something you need to be very careful when you receive it, right? So most of the ransomware attacks, most of the malware attacks, most of the dive to do downloads, dive to download malwares are coming from as an email attachment. You just need to click an attachment, that's it. The malware will be downloaded without any warning. So you have to be careful when you are clicking anything. They lure you. Definitely hackers are lure you. They want that, they want to know who is the weakest link in the organization. And it is very common when you are working from home now, because when you are working from home, you are visiting a lot of websites, a lot of, you can say, personal related websites or not protected websites, and you are downloading some kind of contents, right? If there are contents, these are the command and controls. They are sending this command and control message to the hacker, like, yes, I have this, you can say, dropper on this machine. Now you can take a control on this machine and then reach to the target resource. Again, they are not interested in your personal data. They are interested in the corporate data. The moment you connect to the VPN, they have this, command and control bot running on your machine, which will reach to your target server. And once they reach to the target server, they will copy all this confidential information and then start exfiltrating in a bits and a bytes, so that no one will understand there is exfiltration attempts. So they are behind your data or a corporate data. So when we talk about email attacks, you will see a lot of spam emails, phishing emails, scam emails, or spoofed emails, and there are malware distributed emails. So I'm going to give you the samples, and I'm going to talk about how people can understand or see that emails are spam emails, or without knowing any emails, you don't need to click any emails, or how you can simply identify these are the phishing emails, right? So what are spam emails? Spam emails are unsolicited emails, or it's a junk email which is sent to number of users. Most of the cases it is not a harmful email, right? It is just annoying emails. When they have some kind of URLs inside their spam emails, that is a point they are harmful for you. So otherwise it's a marketing related emails. Whenever you see any email which is coming as there is an offer, 50% off, okay, there is an offer, yeah, these kind of emails are spam emails. But the moment hacker add a phishing URL, they became from spam emails to the phishing emails. So the examples are, for example, you will see some kind of emails which are super offer, 70% off, right? And it will be not exactly sending to you, but basically it is sending to mass of the audience, right? So you will see a lot of email addresses in the two, right? It's not only you, they're sending it to a lot of users. Also, when you see detailed email, there will be a link. And then when there is a link, this became a phishing email. Yes, when there is no link, it is just a spam email. Now, most of the spam emails can be detected by our email security solutions, right? Because we know how to read the spam emails. We know their signatures. We know what kind of domains are sending these kind of marketing emails. Most of the security solution will add a header in front of your spam emails as a marketing. They quarantine it, they drop it. But now spam emails are getting sophisticated. So every time there is a new way of sending this spam email, right? So you need to understand the behavior, and you need to make sure your solution have those kind of machine learning algorithms to read or to train himself for this spam emails. Because, for example, if I know there is something called hurry up as a keyword, or there is something called 24 hours, only limited offer. So when I read this limited offer, I repeat this kind of keyword along to your spam email, which is newly spam email, never seen before. If there is a key phrase in those emails, I will mark it as a spam emails, because most of the time it will act as a false positive. Most of the time it is coming from you, or it is true email, but your solution have a signature to mark it as a spam email. So to get rid of false positive, your solution, whichever the solution you're adopting, should have that machine learning capabilities to learn from the training set. So this is a training set. If you see the similarity, just treat it as a spam. If you don't see the similarity, just let it go so that it will not impact your business or an ongoing business. Most of the time, your spam emails are sitting in the spam folder. But when someone is calling, I send you an email, have you received that email? Then you realize, okay, it's in my spam folder. Maybe it is impacting your business, right? So we are not here to disable your business. We are able to enable the business by adding or removing those false positive from these folders. Yeah, there is a chat. Directly will go to the spam even it does not have any malware. Yeah, this is the point I'm mentioning here, right? Machine learning. So your solution need to understand what is false positive and how to get rid of this false positive. Or your solution should be clever enough to notify the end user, Mr. User, you receive an email which is in your spam folder. Give him a control of this quarantine, right? Everything comes as a notification. You receive an email, because end of the day, organization don't want your business to get delayed. Maybe you need to respond to that email, but you're not receiving that email. It happens to us most of the time. So choose the solution which is having this machine learning capabilities to reduce the false positive in the organization. As I mentioned,
DJ, sorry to interject here. If you don't mind, we would love to hear more about. You've mentioned that you'll be covering a little bit about the measures and best practices.
Yeah.
We've I would say we have I would say a very good understanding thanks to Mr. Haroon, Ili, and yourself about what's spam email, what are the threats, etc. But I think we're all very excited to hear from you as a subject matter expert on what are the best practices.
Sure.
So if you don't mind tackling that, we'd be very excited to hear from you.
Definitely. Most of these examples has been covered before. So to talk about best practice.
How do we stay safe?
Yeah. See, stay safe is a is a tech, right? So there is no silver bullet. But I believe whenever you receive any email, so you need to go over the URL, hover over the URL and see whether the URL is sophisticated or not. So what all are the measures or the tip you need to protect your organization? First of all, your spam engines are up to date, right? Your spam engines need to detect or they need to be aware of what kind of signatures are there. Second, whenever you receive an email, you have to go to that toolbar, see whether the name is exactly the email, the domain is matching or not, right? CEO fraud, for example, you're getting an email for the CEO fraud, but when you open that email, it is from Gmail. So your solution should check your from header to your original header. So you will always see that from header is not equal to sender header. That means this is something wrong. So most of the solution, we have to create this content filters to check your from header and compare it with the original sender header. If they are not same, that means quarantine that email, right? Whenever I see, IT will never ask you for passwords. So whenever you get an email from IT, please share your password. They will never ask your password over the email. So these kind of spams, you have to be very careful. Be cautious about opening attachment and downloaded files for email, regardless of whoever sent it. So whenever you are downloading something, make sure this is really a sender. Have you asked for this kind of attachment, right? As I mentioned, there is no silver bullet. Even though you download those attachments will have a URLs which will redirect you to somewhere else. Then you need a web security, right? So that make sure that URL which you are visiting is a correct URL or not. This is for the organizations, right?
Okay.
If you are not expecting an email with an attachment from someone, make sure that PDF should not be opened. Never enter your private or personal information into pop-ups, right? This is again, if there is a link in an email, as I mentioned, go to that link, move over that link, make sure that link is redirecting to you to the sophisticated website or is just redirecting to some junk website. As Harun mentioned, look for this lock icon. It is very important sometimes, right? You have to look for that HTTPS, whether it's really a HTTPS website or a trusted website or not. I have an example where some of the user receive an email where DMARC and DKIM are passed because they are sending it from the trusted domain, but that domain itself is not related to the sender, from header. So you have to check whether the domain is matching that from header or not. look for the spelling and bad grammar, because when there is a spam emails, they will make the spelling mistakes. Most of the sophisticated organization will not make those kind of spelling mistakes. Some are the other best practice to follow is to enable SPF, DKIM, and DMARC checks, right? So definitely DMARC will be covered in later session. As I mentioned, set up spam filter, disable relaying. Relaying is very important. Make sure you're not accepting everything, or you're not redirecting your internal emails from outside. So when CEO email is coming from outside, should not be a case. CEO email should be your within the exchange. Why CEO is sending an email from outside? So this is some kind of email protection you need to protect. Yes, these are my CEO or CXO names. Whenever you see these names with this domain coming from outside, should not be a case. Maybe your domain is compromised, or maybe that user is compromised in that case, because CEO domain or CEO name with this domain should be internal, routed through exchange, not coming from outside. Throttling policy, that means how much emails you should receive, right? Just to block those kind of spam, because they want to make sure you're loaded with inbound emails, and they want to disable your business. They just keep sending you emails, and your email solution is not capable enough to handle those amount of emails, right? And then your outbound emails will be infected. So best practice is to have a separate solution for inbound or the same vendor, and have a separate solution for outbound, so that when someone is playing with your inbound or making busy your inbound server, your outbound emails will not be bothered. So there should be a dedicated solution for outbound emails, and there should be a dedicated solution for inbound email. Or maybe
yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. So the dedicated solutions for the inbound, and for example, the spam filters, the email encryptions, etc. Yeah. I'm sure the audience and myself included, we know that sometimes our organizations have certain tools in place to protect the inbound or the incoming emails. Yeah. Briefly, if you don't mind giving us a general idea, how do these work, and how do they protect the organization?
See, definitely having those kind of hygiene solution is very important in the organization, because first of all, if you filter, so that's why cloud solution comes very handy in that case. When you talk about cloud email solution, because most of the organizations are using O365 now,
correct.
So you reduce the traffic coming to your organization by cloud email solution. So traffic means you are filtering that email, you are filtering that junk emails, and reducing your amount of inbound emails by filtering in the cloud itself. Then you have to deal with sophisticated targeted emails. Now, if that attachment contains some files which never seen before, or if that file contains some kind of code which look like a malware, then you have a sandboxing solution. Yes, drop that attachment, send that email to the end user, and then inspect that attachment, whether that attachment having some malwares or not. If it is clean, send it later on. But don't disturb the email flow. Send him an email with a notification. You receive an attachment, and attachment is under scanning or under process. The moment I get a verdict from a sandbox, deliver that attachment. As I mentioned, notify the user whenever you're dropping an email. Notify the user whenever you're quarantine an email, so that they will be aware, yes, they received something which is in quarantine. Then they can reach out to the IT staff to release from the quarantine, or they can have access to the quarantine to release by themselves. So these are controls are very important for the organization. Also, for inbound emails, there are a lot of inbound emails, as I mentioned, which are pretending to be a domain, or which are using, pin code. That means Apple, APP1E, right? So these kind of logics you need to mention whenever you see not an Apple, but something related to Apple as a regex, it should be blocked and dropped. Then I mentioned about DNS security, which is very important, because they play with this DNS as a similar kind of DNS. So, or maybe a spoofed DNS. So someone is spoofing your, the biggest example I receive during my journey is the GoDaddy. So someone receive an email from GoDaddy, your domain is getting expired, please log in and renew. So they log in, and we take that credential, user go to his GoDaddy domain, spoofed his domain, and start sending an email from his own domain. And his website is compromised, his domain is compromised, everything is compromised. So you need to make sure when your domain is compromised, then you are out of the game, because now end users are receiving the same domain emails, but they are not, right? So we need to care whenever any email coming from outside, And from your domain should not be a possible. It's a smooth domain. So you need to make sure your MTA, we called it mail transfer agents, or your email security should be sophisticated enough to handle those kind of attacks. Educate your employees, or educate, this is a very best thing you can do, so that they will not click, even though they click, because they have a habit to click everything. Then you should have a web security solution to make sure the users are going to the right URL, or they are just ending up in some fake URLs or malicious URL or command and control server. So it's a chain of solution. And once I know they are ending up in some fake website, then I will alert my email security. Mr. Email Security, whenever you see email coming from this domain, you have to block it. So that ecosystem should work hand in hand. Your web security and email security should work in hand, and they should share information with each other.
So it's a string of, I would say, measures and tools that have to be taken. It's not one, as you said, magic potion that's going to protect my email and my users.
Of course, there is no silver bullet, right? So because you cannot say my email security is 100%, secure. I mean, there won't be any URLs, even though I'm rewriting URLs, there won't be any URLs which will bypass. Definitely, there will be a URLs by embedding in your PDF document, by just converting your URL or just click button. So there will be a URLs, and there will be employees who will click that. The moment they click that, then you need another set of security to make sure they are going to the landing page. They're going to the secure landing page by decrypting it, by doing on behalf of them, going to the landing page, checking what kind of landing page it is. If there is a reputation error on that page, we will alert the user, Mr. User, the page you are requesting is a malicious page. We are not allow you to go there. So this is how you can prevent your ecosystem. Imagine a step ahead. They manage to go to the landing page. Now what they do, they will try to exfiltrate data outside, right? This is the target. Then you have a DLP solution in place on both the chain. When someone is exfiltrating data in bits and bytes, you need a DLP solution which will protect your data. So it's a combination of solutions working hand in hand and sharing information in hand. That's why we called it converged security platform you need in your organization, which will share information with each other.
I think we should cover this, DJ, in the upcoming majlises, the data security, as you mentioned, the data loss protection. I think this will also be a very important topic to tackle together.
Yeah. Actually, as I mentioned, there's no silver bullet, right? There's no 100% security on email protection. So the easiest way of cyber criminal to gain access to your resources is through unaware and end users. End users are the weakest link and the strongest assets. So you have to make sure your weakest link and strong assets are educated enough before they clicking everything. So yeah, that's it from my end. Just respecting the time. Most of the samples on this website has been covered by Harun and Ilya. So I will not walk you through all those samples of email, but it is interesting. We will share this presentation just to see how hackers are clever, how they are manipulating, how they make sure you click those URLs. Yeah. So there are some good examples in the slides which you can get access to.
Thank you, DJ. We really do appreciate that. And for walking us through, I would say, the best practices and the measures. If anyone has definitely would like to get the slides, we're more than happy to share them after the call. If you have any, I would say, particular questions that you'd like to dig deep into them, we'd be more than happy to have a session one-on-one with you also. So we're always open for a quick chat. Thank you, DJ.
Thank you, everyone.
So now we've covered the threats. We've covered, I would say, the best practices internally, as DJ has mentioned, in terms of email filtering, email encryption, the data loss protection, basically protecting your data. Now we will talk about the outbound email security. How do we protect? So it's not just about the emails that are coming in. We're also sending emails out. And this is where Ayan is going to give us a quick introduction about business email compromise, about DKIM, DMARC, SPF, and how it will help our organization and protect our email domain. Before we also move into the topic, would love to hear from the audience again now in terms of their outbound email security. So the first question here is, have your organization, sorry, one second. Have your organization configured DKIM and SPF? And the second question is if you have a DMARC policy enforced. If you're still not sure what these concepts are, we'll definitely be covering them through the presentation right now. Ayan, you just need to unlock your activate. Hi, Ayan.
Hey, hi, Ismail. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's a bit. I would say.
I'll just try to hold my mic a bit higher. So is it good now?
Yes, it's fantastic.
All right, so awesome. So nice webinar going on here. So everyone talking about spam email, phishing, spoofing. Yeah, it's nice to hear about this because to be very honest, when we talk about the market, when we talk to our clients, so most of them, basically in Middle East as well as in Southern, Asia. So we talk about these things and they know the stuff, but they have not yet implemented it. But still, they are going with all those contemporary solutions like antivirus, maybe backup solutions. If they have any problem, they'll back up the data and DLP solutions as well. So just here we are changing the perspective. So what we are doing here is that we are talking about the protocols that are going to secure your outbound emails that are originating on behalf of your email domain. So that is what we are trying to cover mostly. Also in the presentation, we'll try to cover the inbound email aspect as well. All right, so yeah.
Thank you. I'll set you up.
Awesome. So yeah, again, first of all, thanks everyone. Thank you to every speaker, attendees, and thank you especially NGN for giving us the platform, the opportunity today in the summit. So what you're going to do is that today we are going to see the topic. We are going to talk about email authentication and the missing angle of cybersecurity. All right. So let's begin with the outline today. First of all, we are going to talk about what email authentication is all about and why we need to implement it, assessing the threats involved as well as the risks that are at play here. All right. So then we'll be moving on to the various authentication protocols or mechanisms that you can configure for your domain to mitigate the threats and the vulnerabilities at your organization. So we are going to talk about the problems as well as the solution around there. And then the reason why we need email authentication is that in the current situation where emails have become the most potent or you can say popular form of communication, email fraud cases has literally blown out of proportion here. So yeah, once we go to the next slide, we'll be able to see how we are going to categorize email fraud attacks. All right, so we can refer to spoofing attacks and email phishing. So domain spoofing is when someone is trying to forge your email domain name to make emails look like it being sent from your organization. Now, in the chain of event, what happens? It ultimately concludes with a phishing attack to steal login credentials, bank details, sensitive informations. So this can lead to a huge data breach and then loss of financial assets. So this is the thing. And then moving on to the next widget. So there are several ways of cyber attacks cyber criminals can trick your users. So they can pose to be the CEO or CTO, termed as CEO fraud. So your sales stuff, raise fake invoice, inject malware. So this can drastically affect your brand reputation, credibility, as well as growth. And most importantly, it takes a huge toll on your email deliverability. Okay.
I think this is very interesting, Ayan. You will notice when you talk about the topic of, I would say, outbound email security. But what you've mentioned now is that you can actually be spoofed and phished internally at the same time.
Definitely. So we are talking about outbound email security, but we are trying to protect the sender. So what happens? You never know who is the sender. Maybe you're the sender sitting in the same organization as well as you're the recipient sitting in the same organization. So the same angle of vectors and things happen in the same position. All right. Okay. It's not always that outside world is sending out emails to you. All right. Sure. So maybe someone in the organization, you know someone very well, you know their email IDs, but you do not see that there is a dot or there is something missing in that email ID, and you somehow maybe it's your CEO that's sending an email, this is very urgent, you need to act on it. And if I'm that person, I'll click on that, and I'll not look into other things, and maybe I'll pass on some information. So yeah, when someone does that, for an example, NGN is sending an email to Pahatima, all right, but it is not NGN who is sending an email to Power Dimag, so it looks like NGN sending email. So if anyone, maybe me at Power Dimag, sending information to someone who is not NGN, then later on realizing that it is not NGN to whom I have sent the information, so me in trouble as well as NGN is in trouble, the brand NGN is in trouble, because that email looked like the email from NGN. So here we are talking about the protocols. Here we are talking about the solution where we can protect the sender. So if we can protect the sender, in some ways we can also protect the receivers as well. So everyone is talking about protecting the recipients, all right, but mostly we're talking about protecting the senders, their reputations, their brands, each and everything that they own. So it can be a huge business loss if me filing a complaint, legal complaint against your company, so that can be a huge face loss, so that is what we are trying to do over here. So yeah, so what happens over here is that uh, yeah, so if you can, all right, no issues. So proceeding to the protocols, what you can do is that you can configure your domain to minimize BC scams, spoofing in the sector, and we are going to talk about the protocols, 6 protocols today that are enlisted over here. So they are SPF, DKIM, DMARC, MTSTS, TLS, RPT, as well as BME. So these are the protocols that are going to protect as well as leverage your email domain security on 360 degree level. So moving on to the next one, the next slide. First of all, we are going to talk about SPF. So what happens over here is that, as you can see in the picture, there are some sending email servers. All right. So what SPF is basically, SPF are a set of IP addresses or set of FQDNs that are allowed or authorized to send emails on behalf of your email domain. All right. So if in the picture you see that sending email servers are sending emails to the recipient email server. Now what recipient email server will do, will come back to check the sending email server's DNS records. They'll try to find out if those IP address, FQDNs, sender host names are there in the sending source. If they are, then they'll look into the information and they'll pass on the email to the recipient's inbox. But if they are not there, if anyone is trying to spoof you outside of your organization, then it will be marked as a fraud email. It will be failed, it will be put into a spam or junk folder. So this is how it really works. Then moving on to the DKIM, what happens? So this is a combination of a cryptographic key. All right. So yeah. So what happens over here is that this is basically a combination of a public key and a private key. So you have sending sources. Maybe you have Office 365, as we have talked about, Google Workspace, maybe SendGrid, Mailchimp, Amazon ACS. So a lot of sources are there. All right. So if you're sending out emails out of those sources, then one key will be at your sending server, one key will be at your public DNS. So for an example, NGN sends out an email to me. So what my email server will do is that it will see the DKIM key. It will go back to NGN's DNS server and try to check if that private key that is there with the email is matching with the public key that is there in NGN's DNS. All right. So if it matches, then it's a match. It will be passed into the inbox of the recipient. If it doesn't, then it will be put into spam folder, maybe junk, or maybe treated differently. All right. So that's what happens with SPF and DKIM. Now coming to the picture of DMARC. So yeah. So what happens without the protocol, without DMARC? So we have implemented SPF, we have implemented DKIM. So why we're talking about DMARC? So this is going to be a clearer picture why we need DMARC. So without DMARC, what happens? A sender in this picture sends an email. So maybe a business.com is the sender name, sends an email to recipient.com or receiver.com. So maybe the receiver.com is having Office 365 or maybe Google Workspace or something like that. So receiver.com's MTA doesn't have any way to check if that email is coming actually from the sender.com or business.com or something like that, or from a different sending source. So if it doesn't have any way, then it will definitely put that email, irrespective of that email, into the inbox of the recipient. Now we are in trouble. Now, how DMARC is going to help you? So we are going to see that in the next slide. Here, we have just put DMARC in place. So what happens? The same kind of picture over here, where business.com is sending out emails to the recipient. receiver.com. Now what happens over here is that receivers.com's MTA comes back to check the business.com DNS for the SPF record, the IP address, sender, host names, as well as FQDNs, as well as the DKIM key. If all of those informations are matching, then depending on the business.com or the sender domain's DMARC policy, it will be treated. Maybe if the senders.com is having P none, it will be put into the inbox. If they have P quarantine in place, if the SPF and DKIM are not aligned with the sender domain, then it will be put into spam folder. If it is not matching at all, then it will be rejected completely. All right, so this is how it's going to happen. So here DMARC is going to be very important, and on top of that, what happens over here, you get some reports.
So Ayan, just to confirm here, it's not enough to configure my SPF and my DKIM as an organization. I need to reinforce a DMARC policy.
Definitely. So without the DMARC, what's happening? You do not have any clue about the from domain. So you're seeing the mail from envelope from domain in the SPF. You're seeing the DKIM key in the DKIM, but you're not matching them with the from domain. So that is a problem. So
all right. So what are my options when it comes to the DMARC policy? You've said it either goes to the recipient inbox, or it goes to the spam folder or to the reject.
So first of all, the methodology that we follow is that once we see a domain, we put it on P none. So having P none is better than having P reject or P quarantine at the place, because unless and until you have the visibility of your sending sources, if you put your domain onto P quarantine or P reject, maybe you're going to block a lot of legitimate emails, business critical emails on any day. So better have a visibility first, see your sending sources. If they are aligned, that's good with SPF and DKIM. If they are not, then align them. Wait for some time, then put them onto P quarantine. So if they're on P quarantine, and if you see that there are some other sources that is popping up in between, definitely put them onto P none again, align those sources, or maybe quickly you align those sources while staying there on P quarantine. And then if there are no other sources, definitely go to P reject. But still, you need to have a continuous visibility, because see, the thing is that you can move on to P reject within a month, but after that, maybe you have got a new vendor that will be sending out emails on behalf of your email domain. So if you do not align that vendor, and if you're on P reject, definitely all those emails from that vendor are going to be discarded at the MTA level. Even if you were on P quarantine, they would have entered into your recipient spam boxes, but being on P reject, they'll straight away get discarded at the MTA level. So that's scary to be on P reject without having a visibility. So this portal gives you a good amount of visibility. It doesn't matter if you're on none, if you're on quarantine, or if you're on reject. So throughout the tenure, it will give you a complete visibility. It will start.
So monitoring is key.
Yeah. So visibility is the key. Yeah.
Another question that we get a lot, Eli, I'm sure he's part of these conversations, is that Office 365 says that, okay, I'm protecting you when it comes to the SPF, DKIM, and DMARC.
Yeah.
What's your experience with that statement?
So that is a question that we get, at least you can say 60%
we get a lot, yes,
of the time.
It's the most common question. Yeah.
Because Office 365 is giving you free access to your DMARC, so you can put your DMARC on P none, quarantine, and reject. But the same thing happens over here. If you do not have the visibility and put your domain onto P reject, you're in trouble. So better be on P none than be on P reject.
Okay. So the idea is that it's not just flicking a switch. It's about the visibility and about the continuous configuration and the monitoring.
Definitely. Okay. So anyone can turn on the switch at any point of time. All right, but turning it off, that can be difficult.
Okay.
All right. So yeah. Now moving on to the next page. So yeah, this is how DMARC is really building on SPF and DKIM. So the thing we are going to answer over here is that SPF and DKIM cannot authenticate the from domain. So this is what I was talking about previously. All right. So DMARC puts the concept of alignment over here. So what is meaning of alignment? So for an example, your from domain is NGN, then your mail from domain is maybe google.com. Your DKIM is something selected to .onmicrosoft.ngn.com or something like that. So this is not aligned at all. So DMARC puts it on alignment by putting each and every thing in the same place. So your mail from envelope from domain, that's SPF, will be engine.com. Your from domain will be engine.com, and your DKIM, D equals domain, will be engine.com. So that is where demarc comes into the picture. So without demarc, so you do not have any idea to track what's the from domain. So that is the concept, and here we are giving the control on the sender, so they can dictate what the emails, I mean how the MTA, recipient's MTA, will treat if the emails are not matching alignment. So if they're not matching alignment, the sender can say that if any email that is not matching our alignment, then you put them onto pay reject. If all the emails are matching, then you put them onto your inboxes. So this is how demarc really gives you the control. Demarc really authenticates all your emails. All right. So, yeah, as I told you, like we are going to protect you on a 360-degree level with all the protocols. So, till now, we talked about SPF, DKIM, DMARC, how we can protect all those outbound emails. I mean, protect you from BC scams, email domain impersonations, spoofing kind of stuff. But with MTSTS, we are really changing the perspective. So, if you remember, while SMTP came into the picture in the beginning, so there were no encryption. All right. So now, when we felt that encryption is something which is needed, we have introduced the concept of TLS. So we have TLS 1.2 right now with us, but still that is an opportunistic thing. So it is not mandatory. So for an example, I'm a sender. I'm sending an email to you in plain text, as TLS 1.2 is an optional thing. So I can really send that email to you in plain text, and God forbid if that email falls prey to any kind of man in the middle attack, SMTP, TLS downgrade, or DNS spoofing, so you'll be your informations will be shared. So what will happen is that you'll be having some trouble. So what we are trying to do is that with MTSTS, we are trying to protect all the inbound traffic to your email domain with TLS encryption. All right. So if you have TLS encryption, so what happens over here is that if I try to give you a picture, so for an example, if I try to send an email to you, first of all, I'll try to search your domain. I'll do a DNS lookup, MX lookup. All right. And you know that DNS lookups or DNS requests are all unencrypted traffic. So if anyone hijacks that request in the middle, they can alter the recipient's address. Maybe one when I try to resend that email to you, that email will not reach you. Maybe that email will reach to Ilya, if Ilya is someone who is in the middle and who has changed the address. All right. So with MTSTS, we'll also have a host file in our solution. So what happens? You have a file in your DNS MX record. We also have the same MX record in our MTSTS platform. So whenever I'm trying to look up that MX record, I'll see a certain set of host files, and then I'll compare the same host files with the Power DMARC host files. If those matches, then only I'll deliver that email. So this is how MTSTS is going to be a game changer while you're trying to protect your email domain from this kind of man in the middle attack, SMTP, TLS downgrade, or DNS spoofing. And now, just to give you a better perspective, so how you're going to know what are the emails that you're receiving with TLS, what are the emails that you're receiving in plain text. So anyone can enforce TLS encryption, all right? But we need to have a visibility. So with TLS, you'll be able to understand how many emails you're receiving in plain text, what are the percentages that you're receiving in plain text, what are the percentages that you're receiving in TLS encryption. So for an example, you see that majority of your emails are coming in plain text, then you can communicate with the senders like, hey guys, after this time, after this month or something like that, we are not going to accept any kind of emails that will come to our email domain in plain text. So you need to configure your email sending servers with TLS encryption so that we do not fall into any trouble. Your requests do not get changed in the middle, and ultimately the data that you're sending to us doesn't end up to another, spam, inbox or somewhere else. All right. So TLS will give you a good picture of that, and even with TLS, you'll be finding some reports which can be downloaded, and then following those reports, you'll be able to understand that what are the issues, how we can mitigate the issues. So this is how TLS reporting can give you a good picture about MTSTS. So yeah, now just the last thing that we want to talk about is brand indicator for message identification. So this is a very recent protocol, BMI. So what happens now? We talked about P none, P quarantine, and P reject. So once we have aligned all our sending sources, once we have authenticated all our sending sources, then we can move to quarantine. Then we can move to reject. So while moving on to quarantine, what we can do is that whenever we are sending out any bulk emails, maybe marketing emails, maybe any kind of seasonal campaigns that we are sending out, we can affix our brand logo onto those emails. So just to give you a picture, like if I send an email to you without BMI, you'll be able to see my initials like A and B. And if there is anyone who is impersonating the same, who is impersonating me, sends out an email to you, you'll be able to see the same initials A and B. So being a recipient, it's going to be very difficult to understand which one is the authenticated email and which one is the fraudulent email. All right. But when you affix the logo onto your emails, so this becomes very easy. So on one hand, this really protects your brand from brand impersonation, as well as whenever your recipients see that there's a logo from NGN attached to their emails into their inboxes, so they can, without any kind of hesitation, they can open those emails. So they know that those emails are really protected. So BMI can be only achieved once you have achieved P quarantine or P reject. So this is how BMI can be really useful, and it is rapidly growing. If I give you a picture, so currently AOL and Yahoo are working with the platform. They have full-fledged access to it. So if you are a Yahoo user or a AOL user, if I send an email to you with BMI, you'll be able to see our logo. And also in the last month, Google has ended their pilot, so they have entered into production. So they are also completely supporting it. So it's really growing rapidly, and it's really protecting your outbound emails if you're doing any kind of bulk emailing.
Yeah, I have a short question here.
Yeah,
so
sure.
sorry to,
Please.
For me, as the, let's consider I'm a threat actor, is it complicated stuff to, let's say, insert the logo for the some fake domain name or email?
Yeah, that will be a bit tricky. Not complicated, I'd say. It will be a bit tricky, because the thing is that this is not only a logo. You'll have a URL in our backend. So we are hosting that logo. So we will have a URL. So once your recipient, so for an example, you're sending out emails to me with your logo, you're an impersonator. So my MTA will come back to check the original sending DNS.
Okay.
If the SVG logo or the URL is there in the backend. So if it doesn't match, you'll not be able to send that.
So speaking in other words, so BMI is the good addition when everything else is configured in, like SPF,
yeah, exactly. So if you have SPF, DKIM, DMARC, then you can have BMI. Yeah.
Okay, clear. Thank you. Very interesting.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Thank you, Ayan. So we've started off, I would say, with the enemy, with defining what are the phishing emails, the spam emails. Then we moved into the threat landscape, or the top attacks identified locally in Bahrain, and we've ended up with, okay, so we know what's the threat, and then we tackled how we are going to protect it internally through our anti-spam filters, through email encryption, through hygiene in terms of best practices, in terms of security awareness, and being vigilant as a user. And then we've tackled the topic of outbound email security. So it is not only the emails we receive that are vital to be protected, but also the emails that we are sending that require protection and email security. Where we discussed SPF and DKIM and DMARC, and I would say a very new tool, which is the BMI. Thank you, Ayan, for that. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Mr. Haroon, for the presentation. Thank you for your insight and your local expertise. And thank the audience for the participation. And I will also open the opportunity for any questions that you would like to ask to either any of the participants, either to Ayan, to Haroon, to Ilya, or to DJ. We would love to hear from you. Can everyone see the Q&A?
Yeah. So since we are waiting for the questions, I have a question to Mr. Harun, which is popped in my mind, which you were mentioned the phishing, right? The phishing attacks. So I'm really interested to hear from you. What is your opinion on the, all of these applications that we have with databases of the, let's say, malicious telephone numbers? So what is my concern is, from one hand, it's like a very good initiative and it's very useful because you will see the, let's say, the this phone number is like a potentially malicious. But from the other hand, you will share your phone calling history. So this is my concern. So what is your opinion?
No, the thing is, see, my telecom already have my calling list. That's one. They already know who I called, right? Number one. So, and number two is, that's why how they make, the billing is actually on the, previously when it's all started, you have to pay for incoming calls as well, right? So they know whom I have received the call from, and they know where and similarly in this case of, roaming, so you have to pay for incoming as well, right? So they know exactly the source and the destination. They know whom I called at what particular time. What we need to understand is, in terms of phishing, the routing protocol that they are using in a telecom sector, that needs to be a bit, gets a bit open, maybe. Either it has been protected at the source on the telecom sector, or either some protocol from where, these SMS have been generating or calls have been generating. That needs to be in some place where we can actually, either to have the blacklisted, say, phone numbers, or some telecoms that are actually being open. There is some global initiatives has to be done on the telecom sector to protect. We from the fintech or the banking sector, we are making sure that we provide the best security possible to our customers. That's what it is. That's the promise that we deliver. That your money is safe with us, your financial details are safe with us. The only thing is that these attacks indirectly are hitting to my application. So, like, we build the mobile payment applications, right? So through that, if somebody do some fraudulent transaction, use some other, say, the financial information or hacked information from those phishing attacks, ultimately it comes back and hurt our reputation that, maybe from our application, the things are loading up. That's not the case, actually. The platform is there to provide the facility to the customers to do the payments. But if the SMSs or through the phishing email, somebody have already get the financial information and they utilize a similar thing, like, say, buying stuff from Amazon or buying stuff from my platform. It's similar in case, right? So I think that's an inter-industry telecom regulatory authority, TRAs, not only Bahrain, the others have to come back together and make sure that there should be some baselines on the call routing and message routing, and then any identification over there has to be detected. Yes.
Okay. So
very rare. We don't have any controls, to be very honest when it's come to phishing and smishing. There are few applications that I know. There are few vendors of mobile that they are giving you some sort of filtration. But if you remember, you have asked, it's very difficult to make sure, to know the context. Benefit with single E, double E, capital E, smaller E. So there are a lot of other variants, where of the similar notation. And then which I shows you the character from, say, Unicode and non-Unicode, and ASCII and non-ASCII. So there are a lot of things to be catered for. These applications do provide a bit of security, but again, it's not the solution to the issue that we are facing.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, just to add here, I believe that, as you mentioned, from the regulatory point of view, definitely we have a lot to be done, to make sure that all of these potential fraud are covered.
Like, say, something like DMARC or DKIM for telecom. That's what I'm looking after, to look at the integrity of the message or the call. Yeah, that's it.
It's an ongoing process. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of exciting technologies and measures coming in place, whether it is in cybersecurity or telecom or in any field, and operational technology also. which is one big topic, I would say, the OT security. So absolutely, we're always very excited to see where the advancements take us, how we can be safer. And thank you again, Mr. Haroon. Thank you, Ilya. Thank you, DJ, and thank you everyone for joining us. Till our next Majlis, please do stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Take care. Thank you, Ayan.
Thank you.